really to, and it's probably going to be used, this video probably used across the Archdiocese, to help catechists get confidence in teaching this topic, which is not a theological topic, it's a safety topic, and it's helping kids keep themselves safe. But a lot of catechists for the last 2 years have been afraid of it, thinking that they're going to have to teach sex education to kids. And a lot of the parents have been opting out because they thought that we were going to teach sex education to kids, which we're not. So we have a few things going on. The Cardinal and I are making a video for parents. Something in their parish or school that they might want to ask about back to the big. Oh, that's super perfect. So we're trying to get more Larry and I will demonstrate some of the lessons for you, and then talk a little bit about that upcoming Good, because all that stuff I told you, I don't want anybody else to know. So we'll talk about why we do the Empowering God's Children program, talk about how we do it in faith formation, give demonstrations of the lessons this year. There are 6 total lessons. We do 2 a year, and then we start over again. So this year we're doing lessons 1 and 2. So we'll show you that, and then talk a little bit about an upcoming campaign designed by the Communications Office to get people interested, get parents and kids interested in bringing their kids forward for this training. So let's start with why we do this. Okay. Okay, next. Sorry. So there's something called the Charter for the Protection of Children and Young People that the bishops of the United States came out with in 2002. And one of the things it says is that all children have to receive training in how to keep themselves safe. We do a great job with adults. We've taught 100,000 adults the Protecting God's Children program. We teach it about 500 times a year. I have 130 facilitators, including Larry, that teach that course. Children also are responsible for being taught. So the Article 12 in the Charter says every diocese in the United States is to maintain a safe environment program to be conducted cooperatively with parents, civil authorities, educators, and community organizations to provide education and training for minors, parents, ministers, employees, volunteers, and others about ways to sustain and foster a safe environment for children. So training children helps them, back 1, back 2. Oh, okay, forward 1. Yeah, we have to take the timings out. So forward 1, page 5. So training children helps them to report abuse more frequently, and they tend to remember what they've learned. So without training, only 4 in 1,000 children disclose some form of sexual abuse, but when you train them in how to keep themselves safe, it goes up to 14 in 1,000. So then they looked at what the children remembered up to 6 months after, and they remembered a lot of what they were taught. And then they were also more likely than other children to try to protect themselves in a simulated abuse scenario where somebody said, you know what, why don't you come with me? We're going to go to the park. And they were more likely to say, no, I'm not going to do that. Next. training children helps them in several ways, but it's often not done, right? So parents really need to participate, right? To make them feel more comfortable in the future. Sends a signal that we're open to listening to them. And it opens the door to conversations that children don't have to seek out the information elsewhere. And it lessens the potential for predation. If parents are teaching their kids the right names for body parts, they're less likely to be targeted by a predator. It provides a foundation for a conversation about consent. That's not good. So we're going to be done in 58 minutes and 30 seconds, just to let you know. Okay, next. Yeah, it's mine. I'll be right back. Okay, so that's kind of why. Why? Because kids keep themselves safer, kids are more likely to disclose, predators are less likely to target them. So let's move to how we're going to do this. So there's 6 lessons, as I said. So this year we're doing lessons 1 and 2, which is physical boundaries, safe and unsafe touching rules, and safe adults, safe touches, and special safe adults. Even if you look at all 6 lessons, there's really 2 content areas. One is boundaries, and that's like I have a bubble around me, and I don't like my shoulders touched. I get a little nervous when somebody gets too close, and I, as a child, need to be aware when somebody has crossed that boundary, either in person or online. And what do I do as a child? To whom do I go? And what do I say? So the lesson plans for lessons 1 and 2 are accessible in a system called Virtus, which is how you sign up for Protecting God's Children. You all have Virtus accounts, and I've given you access to the Educator tab. So it contains lesson plans for you, as well as a version for the parents. There might be people who are absent from the catechetical programs where you're going to teach this. You're going to give the parents the lesson plans to teach their kids at home. There's videos for you to show. We're going to show you one of them. And those videos are embedded in the parent version. They're separate in the catechist version. And then there's a parent completion form. So if the parent does the training at home, they say, you know, I taught little Johnny on October 2nd, and they send that back into you so that the parish can count the kids that are trained. There is an optional module that I can give you on Virtus. It's online. That's called Lesson Leader Orientation. For people that are a little uncomfortable talking about boundaries with kids, it's just a 1-hour online thing to get you more comfortable or get a parent more comfortable with having this conversation. There's also on my website, and I'll show you where that is, a 2-page overview. These are the 6 lessons and what they cover. And a 20-page guide that says, how do I talk to a kid that's 1.5 years old to 3 years old? How do I talk to a kid that's 4 years old to school age? How do I talk to a 1st grader to a 3rd grader about issues of boundaries? So it gives parents and caregivers information on how to have these conversations. Very similar to the online module, which is an hour. The 20-page guide on our website also has that kind of information. But you'll see, if you're an experienced catechist or you've worked with kids, that what we're teaching is rather nice, good, fun, especially for the little kids. So next. So each lesson starts with an age-appropriate video. So this is the one that's shown to kindergartens to 5th grade. They show boundaries as bubbles, virtual bubbles around the kids. So every kid in that age group is going to see that video. It's about 8 minutes. We're talking about 2 40-minute lessons during the course of the catechetical year, and this is 8 minutes of that 40-minute lesson. Next. So the middle school one has slightly more, not mature, I'll use the mature word, but age-appropriate content, shows girls and boys in a Catholic school context. A lot of stuff on technology as well. Next. So there's 2 options for the teaching, either the catechist or the parents. and then that optional module on virtues for people that want that confidence called lesson leader orientation. So the teacher can take it, whether the teacher is a catechist or a parent. The lesson plans are accessed through virtues by the catechist, or Adrian can send them directly to the parent. If they say, you know what, I don't want to send my kid, I want to teach my kid at home. The catechist version has a separate video, the parent version has a video embedded, and again, you access these through the educator tab in virtues. So you teach the Empowering God's Children lessons, you count the children that have attended, because the safe environment person has to say once a year how many kids in the program and how many kids were trained. Now, I've also asked places like Rutherford, which Rutherford hasn't done it yet, but you can give me the curriculum from the Rutherford Public School, elementary school, and if some of the grades cover this stuff, then the kid's trained. So there are some parishes for which I've looked, and then I said, all right, everybody in second grade that goes to that public school in your town can be considered trained. Now, it doesn't mean they can't be trained again, but there are some public schools that teach stuff like boundaries and safe adults. So a safe adult is just somebody that you can go to when you feel that there's something sketchy going on. When Larry and I taught kids a couple of years ago, I was teaching the K-2 kids, and I said, so who are some of your safe adults? This little girl raised her hand. She goes, my mom has the FBI on speed dial. Okay, that's a safe adult. And then special safe adults is a subset of safe adults. And those are the people that we let touch our private parts for the purposes of keeping us safe and healthy and clean. And so the parent's conversation with the kid tells them exactly who in their life are their safe adults, where they have a conversation together. And then, who are my special safe adults that can do that? So those, from a wording standpoint, that's what virtues means by those things. Yeah. I haven't. What usually happens is the Safe Environment Coordinator at the parish talks to the superintendent and gives us their curriculum. So I've probably looked at maybe 6 or 7 different towns, but not Rutherford yet. So if you want to send me what Rutherford has, I'd be glad to go through it. Some of the grades, like the one I just looked at on the weekend, South Orange Maplewood, first grade has boundaries, but no safe adults. Second grade has safe adults, but no boundaries. Third and fourth grade have nothing. And I think it was either 5th or 7th, right? So when you think of the older kids, the 6th to the 8th grade, it's obviously not as simplistic as K-2. So when we're talking about boundaries, sometimes we talk about toxic relationships, right? So say I live in Allendale, and I'm a kid in the high school, and I like to go to Garden State Plaza with my girlfriends. But on a night before a physics test, I'm not going to go. So that's my boundary, right? My rule says, you know what, I'm going to say no to anybody that asks me to go to Garden State Plaza the night before a physics test. But then there's Emily, and Emily is just so full of drama that if she says, let's go to Garden State Plaza, then I'm going to say, oh, okay. So I'm relaxing my boundary for Emily because I don't want the drama. So whereas in a K-2 situation, we talk about a floppy grocery bag being a bad boundary because it's not firm, like a cereal box. Now we're talking about a boundary that you may set that you relax because of drama, because I like this boy. And so the boundary conversation for 6th to 8th graders is a little more complex. And the safe adults conversation, when I looked at Maplewood South Orange, they talk about relationships that might be not consensual. And those are boundaries, So you're letting someone, or someone is breaking your boundary by asking you to have a non-consensual sexual act. And because that's what they're teaching in the public schools. And then what resources in the community can you go to tell them when you're uncomfortable or something has happened to you? So that's like my mom has the FBI and speed dial, right? So the different grade groups, K-2, 3 to 5, and 6 to 8, the age appropriateness of the content changes, but the basic content itself doesn't change. I set boundaries for myself, and I respect the boundaries of others. I know who my safe adults or resources are, and I know how to use them in times when I need to call on them. If the elevator conversation is really just that, all 6 of the lessons. So if you have a kindergartner this year and they take lesson 1 and 2, next year when they're in first grade, they take lesson 3 and 4. The next year when they're in second grade, they take lessons 5 and 6. The next year when they're in third grade, they take lesson 1 and 2 again. But now it's the 3rd to 5th grade version of lesson 1 and 2. Similar to what they took back here in kindergarten, but with a little bit more, I want to say mature, but I don't want to, that's such a pejorative word, more age-appropriate content. So, the Virtues Helping module is accessed differently based on whether the person has taken the Protecting God's Children class. You as catechists have all taken Protecting God's Children, but some of the parents that'll have kids to be trained will never have been catechists, never have been volunteering. So I don't want them to have to go through what's your name, what's your social security number, what's your date of birth, what's your address. So there's like a speedy, I call it alt Virtues. So if they want to take the online module, but they've never had Protecting God's Children, I can give you a special Virtues link that all they do is go to that link and it starts the module. So they don't have to do any of that other stuff. In fact, I think on the next page is the link, but obviously you can't click on that link when it's up there on that screen. But I can send the link to you if that's something that some of your parents want to do. Next. So I'm going to show you Virtues, but the lesson plans are found on the Educator tab. I've been given your names by Adrian, so you shall have access to the Educator tab. And when you go to the Educator tab, it gives you lesson plans in English and lesson plans in Spanish. And it says lesson 1 through 6 for grades K to 2, lesson 1 to 6 for grades 3 to 5, and lesson 1 to 6 for grades 6 to 8. And the little blue thingy, I think, is, I can't read what that word is. I think it does say download, thank you. It says download. So the English on the left, Spanish on the right, each of them have the lesson plans. And so that's really for you. And every lesson plan kind of has a overview in the front, and I'll show you what it looks like. And then it has activities, and you only have to pick one of them. So when Larry and I did this a couple years ago, we just picked one of the many activity options. So we're going to walk you through one of the activity options so that you can kind of get a good example. Next. So this is what you're going to see when you go to your Educator tab. And on that green side where the red arrow is, it has the videos. There's a video for elementary school, and there's a video for middle school, and there's a video for high school. Right now, our Catholic schools are teaching this content in grades K through 12. Faith formation, we're asking for it to be done in K through 8. Next page. So the parent version's right under where the videos are. It says parent-specific lesson plan information. And you click on that, and you get to the lesson plans for the parents, which have the videos inside them. So that's probably more for Adrian. If the parents are going to be teaching, he goes there, cuts and pastes the PDF, shoots it in an email to them. So they have the lesson plan and they have the video. But you'll be using the catechist version, which has the lesson plan separate from the video. Okay? Next. So when you click that link, the parent link, it looks a little bit different, but it's basically English and Spanish, K to 2, 3 to 5, 6 to 8, 10 to 12, 9 to 12, lessons 1 through 6. So it's a little matrix. And all of those things, the words that say lesson plan, they're all clickable. So the parent version is in that words lesson plan. You click on it. So if they have a kid in 3rd grade, you click the 3 to 5 version, 3rd to 5th version of lesson 1, and the 3rd to 5th version of lesson 2. You send them an email. Jenny, you requested the lesson plans for your child who's in 3rd grade. Here's the lesson plans. If you have any questions, let me know. And the parent completion form, down where the red arrow is, says, all right, my name is Karen Clark. I taught Mary Hope on October 2nd. And it'll have, hopefully, return to Adrian at St. Mary's. Okay? Next. So this is an example of what you'd see when you get to the lesson plan. 32 minutes after the 8-minute video. So here it says, in preparing for the activity, review the teaching boundaries and safety guide, that 20-page thing or the 2-page thing on my website. And The directions. Teach children what to do if someone wants to touch their private body parts or if an adult asks a child to touch them. Tell them to do the following and then ask them to repeat the safety rules back to you. Say no, try to get away from this person, and tell a parent or safe adult what happened. So then you give them examples of situations that might come up and talk about what to do. What if an adult offers you a present or asks you to keep you from talking about a touch involving your private body parts, or any kind of touch that might upset your parents? There's actually worksheets for this, so you kind of give them a thing, true, false, yes, no, safe, not safe. There's one activity that we're not going to take you through now because it requires too much space, although there's a lot of space here. You put like a red piece of construction paper up there and a green piece of construction paper here, and all the kids are in the middle, and you say, all right, here's the situation. Is this safe or not safe? If it's safe, go to the green area. If it's not safe, go to the red area. 1, 2, 3, go. And then, you talk through, so why does half of you think it's not safe and half of you think it's safe? Let's talk about why that's true. So, it gets them physically moving, it's like a worksheet with situations. So this is really just the introduction for you guys to kind of think about what we're going to talk about this lesson. Next. So let's look at a couple of examples of the lesson plans and at least one video. So if you click on the hot link, no, just click on that gray. Up, yep. One more, up, yep. And say skip verification. All right, so now this is the live Virtu system. So if you go to the left side in the green area and click the elementary video, yeah, and let's just take a look at that. It's 8 minutes.
Hi, I'm Heather McKenzie, and I want to remind you of something very important, and that is God created us all, and each of us are unique, different, and special. We're different colors, different heights, different shapes, beautifully different. But one thing's the same. God loves us all, and he wants us to be healthy, safe, and protected.
So today you will learn some things about your own body. You will learn that one way to keep yourself safe and protected is by having personal boundaries. You will also learn about personal safety rules and how to use these rules to protect yourself. Let's start by talking about personal boundaries. Each of us have different personal boundaries. Personal boundaries are like having an imaginary circle or bubble around you, and you get to decide who you allow into your personal space. It's important that you understand personal touching rules to keep your body safe. Remember,
no one has the right to cross your boundaries. No one has the right to cross your boundaries. No one has the right to cross your boundaries.
Perfect. You know what? Your whole body is private, including your mouth, your nose, your eyes, your ears, your hands, and your feet. Not just the parts of your body that are covered by a bathing suit, but your whole body. And because it's your body, and because it is private, no one, absolutely no one, has a right to touch you if it makes you feel uncomfortable, scared, or confused. After all, it's your body, right?
Right.
Right!
so let me tell you something else very important. When someone touches your body, it should be a safe touch. Safe touches are like a hug from mom or dad or your grandparents, a pat on the shoulder from a coach, and of course, a high five from a friend. But you know what? Sometimes a touch may not feel safe. It might feel uncomfortable, scary, or confusing. Nobody has the right to touch you anywhere on your body in a way that you don't want. or when you don't feel like it. Remember,
No one has the right to cross your boundaries.
even if you don't like someone touching your shoulder or giving you a hug, you have the right to ask or tell the person to stop.
Now, you'll also learn about safe and unsafe adults and children, and special safe adults. But you don't have to worry, most children and adults are safe. They won't hurt you or cross over your circle or your bubble boundary.
However, there are other people who are not safe and do unsafe things on purpose. They can even be a family member or a person you know really well. They may be kids who say they are your friends, but they may not be safe friends. At first, they may act like safe friends, but they really don't care about your safety or if you get hurt. There are also some adults we call special safe adults, such as your doctor or nurse, who may need to see or touch your private body parts to keep you healthy. Your parent or guardian should be with you during this time. At other times, your parent or guardian may help you when you can't do certain things yourself, like wash your back, put a bandage on a cut, or remove a splinter.
Now, just like in every game you play, you have to follow rules. In this lesson, you'll learn and discuss some important rules. Rules for you to remember, because these rules will help keep you safe. These safety rules are really easy and important to help you know what to do if someone breaks them.
The safety rules are very much like the safety rules for crossing the street. First, you stop at the curb. Second, you look both ways. And third, you go on the green light and stop on the red light. You wouldn't run into the street without following the safety rules, would you? Of course not.
Now, if an adult or a child crosses that circle or bubble that is your boundary, like touching you or saying something that makes you feel uncomfortable, confused, or scared, even if you know that person really well, remember the safety rules and that you have every right to say,
No! No! Stop that! Leave me alone! You mean I can say no to an adult?
yes, you can say no even to an adult if they are breaking the safety rules.
And if someone tries to hurt you or makes you feel uncomfortable, scared, or confused, you should also get away as fast as you can. Then tell a safe adult what happened right away. It's okay to be loud and shout if you're trying to get away from a scary situation.
Go away!
It is also important to follow the safety rules when you're using your cell phone, iPad, or if you're playing online games or watching videos. What you got?
If you see something that makes you feel uncomfortable, scared, or confused, get away and tell your parent, guardian, teacher, or other safe adult right away. It's important that you understand the personal safety rules apply all the time, whether you're communicating in person or through an online interaction or activity. If something unsafe happens to you, remember, it's not your fault. You didn't do anything to cause it. It's the job of the adults in your life to keep you safe and protected.
It's never your fault. It's never your fault. It's never your fault.
There are many people in your life who love you and want to keep you safe. And you know what? It's possible you may never come across or be around an unsafe adult or child, and that's really good. But in case it does happen, your lesson leader is going to share with you more important information about ways to keep you and your beautiful, unique body that God has given you safe and protected.
Okay, so that's for up to grade 5, right? So it sets the scene for us to start talking about those topics: boundaries, safe adults, special safe adults. So I think Larry gave you, oh, you didn't, okay. Oh, you gave them the whole packet. Okay. Did anybody not get one? Okay. There's one more person. Do you have a? Thank you. So I'm going to go through lesson 1 and lesson 2 for grades K to 2. So I chose an activity in lesson 1 that has its second part or finished part in lesson 2. So for you summer people, if you decide to take the November date and say, you know what, the November date, we're going to do both lessons, get them all done, bing, bing. The nice thing about doing it that way is if you choose to do 1 and 2 together, it's the same activity, which is this passport activity. You'll get lessons 1 and 2 done, but it'll seem like one lesson. Then you can, for any kid that doesn't show up in November, you can have the parents do it. Whereas if you do 1 lesson in November and 1 lesson in the spring, you might have some kid that didn't come to the first one, but came to the second one, didn't come to the second one, came to the first one, and it'll be a little, and plus it might be late, too late for the parent to catch up and do that lesson plan. Whereas if you do it in November, you just say to the parents who didn't send their kid, you have until April, maybe you want to say you have until February, knowing how the parents are. Sometimes if you give too long a date, they're like, hey, yeah, you got till April, you know? Whereas if you say you have till January, you know, to do the lesson plan with your child that missed the thing. That's just a suggestion if it works for you. So this is what a lesson plan looks like. So it gives a little bit of a background. In this case, it's talking about what passports are used for. So obviously, so kids, how many of your parents, how many of you have ever seen a passport? You know, if you have one, bring one. And show them what a passport does and you know, why we use one. And so then there's worksheets that come with it that I think you got. I ended up printing them. I don't know if Larry did. I printed mine duplex, flip on short side, so that you could actually see what it would look like for the kids to fold it. And maybe Larry did it that way, but if not, you have an extra copy. Okay. You know, the activity, the children will complete the cover of the passport and will begin working on pages 2 and 3. That's what it says in lesson 1. In lesson 2, it says, the children started this activity during lesson 1 and will finish it in lesson 2. So the thing I like about this one, yeah, thank you. And if it ends up being a second one, that's okay too. So, you know, you have the child, you know, kind of draw their own picture and their name in the first one. So obviously there's a little setup with crayons or pencils or whatever. And then, you know, they get to fold it. And, you know, on the inside, you start them working. You know, let's talk about safe touches. You saw it in the video. You know, what kind of touches did you see in the video that looked like the kid was fine with, right? I think it's important to, I have had some pushback from catechists that say, I would never tell my child not to be polite to grandma. But we teach in Protecting God's Children that you have to honor the child's radar. And if he comes to you and says, you know what, I don't want to hug grandma today, the answer is not, go hug grandma. You're not being polite. Because we're telling them that little radar that you have that says, I don't want to do this right now, is broken. And so somebody else wants to hug them, they may think, well, mom told me to go hug grandma when I didn't want to, so I clearly don't understand what the hugging rules are. And it might be because grandma smells funny, she hugs too much, I just don't feel like a hug today. And so we have to let them go with that. And we have to tell grandma, who may not buy into that, that that's what we're doing to help keep our child safe. So we've been teaching in Protecting God's Children, all the adults, that you have to respect the child's boundaries and listen to them. Also, 33% of the sexual abuse done to kids under 18 is done by kids under 18. So if the kid says they're uncomfortable with a kid at school or a kid in their family or a kid they're playing with down in the basement, you don't just say, go play with cousin Barry, you know, his dad is my brother. You say, so what's up? What did he do that you don't like, right? So you're open to him being uncomfortable with a child, with an adult, with a priest, with a coach, with anybody. And you have to tell the adults in your life that we're trying to get him to understand and formulate his boundaries, her boundaries, and to respect the boundaries of others. Because sometimes it takes a little education on the adults because we want to work together. So if the kid comes and says, I'm uncomfortable with grandma hugging or whatever. Luckily, with COVID, one of the good things about COVID is we learned alternate ways to greet someone that don't involve a hug. So, what can we do with grandma? Should we do a fist bump? Should we just wave hi? So you give them alternatives for a hug. And, consent can start with, I know I said, what do you do for a 1.5 to 3-year-old? And you might have been thinking, what do I do with that? But even when you're changing a child's diaper, right, if you're the caretaker or a parent and you say to the little boy, I think your diaper needs to be changed. Is it okay to change it now? Because I'm going to have to wipe your penis. Is that all right today? Right now, or would you rather wait, right? And if he says, I'd rather wait, okay, that's good. So we're teaching him at an early age that you have the right to say no. I mean, unless he's hurt, right, and I have to grab him out of the street or something. But for things that can involve consent, you teach them at an early age that, and maybe you don't want grandma to hug you today. That's okay. We're just going to tell grandma that you don't feel like a hug today. So that they can start building their bubble, and who they're going to let into the bubble, and who they let in today might be different than whom they let in yesterday. I think that's an important rule for the older kids, where we talk about, you may have let someone in your bubble, whatever that means to a 6th to 8th grader, yesterday. You can say no today. Whether that's going to the Garden State Plaza before a physics test or something sexual in some way. Just because you said no, yes yesterday doesn't mean you can't say no today. Just because you hugged grandma yesterday doesn't mean that you can't say no today, because you just don't feel like a hug. But now let me ask my friend who looks sad, is it okay if I hug you? Do you want a hug? So now we're teaching them that for their friends, they have to ask for that as well. So then you kind of going off the video on the safe touches, what safe touches did you see there? And what are some of these examples, right? And you're open to them having other examples. And then you have them draw a picture of their favorite safe touch in the box. Just like we do with K to 2, walk around, who is that? Is that that's my cousin Sean. Then you kind of go to the safe adult conversation. What did the video say about a safe adult? Right? So what kind of things would you tell a safe adult that you might not tell the man in the grocery store? And who are some of your safe adults, right? So you can draw your mom's phone with the FBI on speed dial. That'd be fine. So a picture of one of your safe adults in this box and a picture of one of your special safe adults in the other box. So having an art thing will help them grasp the concept, have you ground your conversation in something specific to each child, and you're also producing something that they can bring home, and you can share the lessons with the parents. When Larry and I used to teach this to the kids, we would write a letter home and said, thank you so much for sending your child. We got a lot done today. Here's the 3 things that we taught them. And here's how we'd like you to reinforce that lesson. And we would tell the kids, who likes homework? You're not going to get the homework. Your parents are going to get the homework. So by having the passport, you can say to them, this is something I want you to bring your parents, and tell them that you made a passport for yourself, and ask them if they have a passport, and show them some of the pictures that you drew. And then on the back, and I don't have one that's copied on the other side, who has permission to touch your private parts, who are those special safe adults, and then what are some ways that we can tell an unsafe person no, right? So no is a word. No is a complete sentence, right, Larry? But what are some other ways, right? So even if you model it, I'm going to give you a hug, but you don't want a hug from me. What are you going to say to me? Get them to practice, because some of them are not comfortable telling an adult no. And we have to affirm that it's okay. You didn't hurt my feelings. In fact, I'm glad you told me that. Even as an adult now, I have a girlfriend from Notre Dame. She lives in Chicago, and her daughter, Ellie, I met her for the first time. And I said, are you a hugger? She goes, you know what? I'm not a hugger. Thank you so much for asking. And I think that now, even as adults, we can model to the kids around us that we're also going to be respectful of other people's boundaries, that we're not going to just assume people want hugs if they're grown-ups, because they don't always want hugs. Any questions about how these 2 lessons would flow? And actually, you're doing 2 lessons, but it's really one session. It's one content stream. but it's 2 lessons in Empowering God's Children.
Are the parents of the students coming in November, are they going to be notified about this? That this lesson is happening and all that kind of thing? Yes.
Yeah, I have a sample letter that I wrote. I think it's in, is it in this presentation or in the, I have a version of this for PCLs and DREs that say, here's a sample lesson, a letter that you can send home to the parents. You know,
I think it's definitely good content, but if I didn't have any idea was coming, I think it'd be a little bit like,
So the kids that don't show up for our November class, we're assuming that the parents are going to deal with the kids.
yeah, with their own kids. Unless you want to send them to the regular faith formation program when they're going to be offering the lessons. But I understand you had 300 kids in the summer program, so that's a lot of kids, depending on how many miss that date. That could be a lot of kids to jam into the regularly scheduled faith formation program. So, yeah, it's mostly for parents. So I've written a sample letter to the parents to kind of just tell them what's going on. You just have to put in the date and your own, St. Mary's kind of wording. Other questions? And then I'll have Larry, I'll switch microphones so that you can kind of go through what an older child's lesson would be like. Because obviously, and 3 to 5 will be in between, but this will be a 6 to 8 lesson.
religious education program because we get about 10,000, there's about 10,000 kids that attend Catholic schools in the Archdiocese of Newark. There's about 66,000 kids that attend CCD. So the more kids that we train and the more kids that are aware, the safer the kids are. So this is, we're grateful that you're here tonight. We're grateful that you offer to take on this responsibility because, it's a huge priority for us to make sure that the adults are trained and the kids are trained, and we're covering all the bases at that point. So 6, 7, and 8 is there's a page there for you too, and it just kind of takes it, as Karen said, it kind of takes it up a level to the age-appropriate level of the child. So 6, 7, and 8th graders, and I taught 8th grade here for many, many years, and I do the confirmation program here, so I'm used to dealing with that 13, 14-year-old child, which is a lot different than dealing with a 4 or 5 or a 6-year-old child. So you've got to make it a little bit more appropriate for them because if you talked about bubbles with them, they're going to think you're crazy. So we have to talk about the internet. We have to talk about appropriate touch from friends, appropriate touch from friends of the opposite sex at that point in time. So all of these things are designed to kind of be age appropriate. And you'll see that there is an activity there, a safety worksheet, and it just kind of goes through very simple questions and very simple answers. Is this true or is it false? And really what it's designed to do is to make sure that they understand what a safe friend and a safe adult is at this level. Hopefully, as we do this continually over the next few years, the kids that have taken it in at the early ages, by the time they get here, they're really going to be able to be experts about what they should or shouldn't be able to do. The most important thing, I think, is what comes up on the video, and I think Karen said it before as well, is we're teaching them to say no, that it's okay to say no. If they feel uncomfortable, the most important thing they can do is say, you know what, this is my space, I'm not comfortable with this, the answer is no, and go find a safe adult. And I think that's an important lesson. So for here, it's all about true and false. If you're aware that a friend is being cyberbullied or harassed or has experienced abuse, is it okay to keep that matter private without telling an adult, especially if you promised that you wouldn't tell? Friends at this age, peer pressure is very important, right? So is that a true or a false statement? Anyone? Show of hands, who says true? If you're aware that a friend is being cyberbullied or harassed or has experienced abuse, is it okay to keep the matter private without telling an adult, especially if you promised you wouldn't? Is that a true statement or a false statement? False statement, exactly. And kids, remember, kids are going to struggle with that. My best friend just told me something and asked me not to tell. And remember, a certain percentage, a significant percentage of child abuse occurs within a family. It could be an uncle, it could be a cousin, it could be a father, it could be a mother. You know, you don't know. And the fact of the matter is when someone discloses to another child, they're going to get into a situation where they're feeling really conflicted. They want to be accepted, they want to be part of, you know, a good friend and things like that. So they're going to really struggle with that. And it's hard to give them the tools to turn around and say, you know what, that's a secret you shouldn't keep, because that kid's in danger. Frequently we experience child-on-child abuse. We get notified from one of the schools that there's some child-on-child abuse. And quite often what we find out in that instance is the child that's inappropriately touching is being abused and doesn't know the difference. That's what they think is normal. You know, so when it happens, automatically we go, well, wait a minute, that's strange, he just attacked him. No, he's probably the one being abused. You know, so you got to pay attention to a lot of things, but when it comes to the older kids, you got to make sure that they feel that empowerment to say, you know what, I'm going to find a safe adult and I'm going to tell them. And maybe they have to have that discussion with the friend as well, and giving them the tools to do that is important. It's important to know that they can do it. You know, is it okay for an adult or an older child to make you promise to keep an unsafe secret? True or false? False, right? And that's the kind of thing we go through with the kids, and we kind of give them the tools and explain to them why it's important. Keeping your friends safe is important. I think Karen pointed it out before when she talked about the relatives, and I've had people when I teach PGC come up to me all the time and say, well, how do I get them, you know, my husband wants them to hug grandma. And, you know, and we just turn around and say, you know what, the important thing is to tell grandma, I'm teaching my child how to be safe. And I'm teaching them the difference between what they want, what they feel is their boundary, and if that's their boundary, we're going to respect it. And I appreciate you helping me do that. And what grandparent, and I am a grandparent, no grandparent's going to say no to that. You know, if that was what it is, we're going to do what we need to do to keep the children safe. And this goes through the same thing for the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and it's just more at a more appropriate level. And I'm not going to go through all the questions there, but it's more one-on-one discussions. Because they're older, they can get into a discussion. It's not so much that you have to keep it at that lower grade level, where we can have a more robust discussion on what they think. And the kids at 6, 7, and 8 are very communicative. They'll tell you. Anybody here teach 6, 7, and 8? You know. You can have a real conversation with them at that age. It's not the same as when they're the little ones. So, you know, you can have a real meaningful discussion on keeping them safe and what the boundaries are. So does anybody have any questions? No? Okay, I think we have one more thing to wrap up here. That's that? Okay. So this is the campaign Karen was mentioning earlier in her presentation. We went to our communications department and asked them to try and come up with something that wasn't so, was more appropriate for the child and the parents to know that this is something that they can really relate to. So we put Safe Kids, Start with Strong Minds. Give your child the power and knowledge. And you see there's a bunch of superheroes there, which the kids can relate to easily because it's more accustomed to their age group. And it's really about giving them the tools in order for them to be safe. It's one thing to all of us to attend PGC classes and watch for the signals and signs, but how great is it if you can empower the child, you know, to stop it? So if that's the thing that we need to do. So it's a great campaign. We're looking forward to launching it soon. Looking forward to releasing it soon. There'll be, I think you've got posters, you've got handouts, we've got stickers I think you're making. I think there's all kinds of collateral that'll be, you know, going through with it as well. And it'll be something to reward, especially when you do the program. It's a nice little reward for the kids. The first time we did this, we gave out little stars and, you know, we gave out little things to the kids so that they felt good about what it was that was going on. So, all right. Anything you want to tell anybody? Thank you. So what we're planning on for that Saturday, when we have all the kids here, and I understand the number's like 300 kids. I don't know what the breakdown is yet. 270? So we'll get the breakdown of the ages, but what we're trying to accomplish is basically to have two people for each group. And myself and I don't know if my buddy's going to try and be here. And Adrian and Donna will be kind of roaming, where we'll fill in where help is necessary. And if we can get 2 people per group, we might, depending on the number of kids, we might have to split them in half, and one person gets one half and one person gets the other half simultaneously. And then we kind of get them all done in the same time frame. Because remember, we have them all here at that point, and we're all teaching the same thing at different age-appropriate levels. So Adrian's got the dates, I think, of that Saturday. We'll start to work on that right now, and what the breakdown of the groups could be. We recorded tonight's session, so if he'll be able to use that to train additional people. As you guys all know, I'm in the parish here, so I'm usually around, and my grandson is in the program now, so I spend Monday afternoons with Adrian and Donna, working on a few things. So I'm around as well. Hopefully Karen will be here with us that day too, because the more hands you have, the better it is, more easy to manage. We have to find out logistics as to where we can hold the sessions, because it's bigger groups of people, obviously. You'll have K1, 2 together, 3, 4, 5 together, 6, 7, and 8 together, as opposed to separate. So we'll figure out how to do the logistics. Yeah. The summer program kids, that will be all done. If you're in your regular class, you'll be able to teach it just with your regular, in your regular schedule. We had.
Sometimes what we've done is 8:30, the K-2 people come, and we do them in different stations, like lesson 1, and then they move over and get lesson 2. It depends how many people you have, and then an hour and a half later, or whatever, the next grade group comes in. But it depends on the space, it depends on the numbers per grade, because we need to have enough manpower to be able to teach and manage and corral.
Right.
Okay, so my understanding was we were teaching Advent in the November meeting, so we're not doing that anymore. We're doing this.
Well, we're still talking to Adrian and Donna to figure out whether we want to break the session. So in other words, we'll do one session for like 45 minutes or an hour of this, and then your second hour will be of your Advent, and then November will be the other half. And so we're still working with Adrian and Donna. Once we get the numbers pinned down and how many catechists we can make sure are available, we'll make a better decision as to how we split it up. Because I think those Saturday kids have to be here. I think it's 2 hours, right? Right. So maybe we take the first hour and the second hour is Advent. Okay? But Adrian will fill you in on that once we get the numbers decided. Okay, any other questions? So again, we're really grateful for all of you, for all you do for St. Mary's, and I know Adrian and Donna certainly are. The program is very rewarding once you finish it, and you know that the child's got it down, and you know that the child is now more protected than they were before. So thanks for coming tonight. I appreciate that. If you got any questions, you can shoot Adrian and Donna an email, and we'll answer it, okay?